from a field marshal who called Patton's Rhine crossing impossible, to a general who built the perfect trap for Patton and got trapped himself, to the commander who told Berlin Patton was too exhausted to advance, the morning Patton covered 100 miles in a single day. These are the 5 German generals who underestimated George Patton. Every single one of them paid for it. Chapter 1. The Field Marshal who called him a showman. Gerd von Rundstedt was the most experienced field marshal in the German army. He had fought on every front. He had studied every Allied commander. He thought Patton was reckless, a gambler, not a serious general. August 1944. Patton's Third Army is unleashed after Normandy. Rundstedt has calculated that no army can sustain Patton's pace. Supply lines will fail. The advance will slow. In 3 weeks, Patton covers 600 miles, the fastest sustained advance in the history of warfare to that point. Rundstedt's defensive positions are bypassed before they can be reinforced. Units that were supposed to hold key positions find Patton already behind them. Rundstedt is relieved of command. For the second time in the war, he called Patton a showman. Patton called it Tuesday. But Rundstedt underestimated Patton from a distance. The next general made his mistake face to face, and by the time he realized his error, Patton's tanks were already past his flank. Chapter 2. Germany's Best Tactical Mind. Hermann Balck was considered by Guderian himself to be the finest panzer commander alive. He had turned hopeless situations into victories on the Eastern Front repeatedly. He met Patton in Lorraine. He lost. Balck correctly identified that Patton was running out of fuel. The Third Army was literally stopping on roads waiting for deliveries. Balck calculated this was his moment to strike, a massive counterattack to shatter the weakened American lines. What Balck didn't account for was what Patton did while waiting for fuel. He mapped every German position, every gap, every weakness. When the fuel arrived, Patton didn't advance. He exploited. Every thrust went exactly where Balck's lines were thinnest. Balck's counterattack had revealed his reserve positions. Patton went around them. Germany's best tactical mind. Beaten anyway. What happened to Balck happened over weeks. What happened to the next general happened in 72 hours, and he never saw it coming. Chapter 3. The Man Who Set the Trap. Otto von Knobelsdorff studied Patton carefully. He identified a pattern. Patton always pushed spearheads further than supply lines should allow. The standard response was simple: let them extend, cut them off, destroy them in isolation. He tried it in September 1944 on the Moselle River line. When Knobelsdorff's forces moved to encircle an extended Third Army column, Patton didn't order the column to withdraw. He ordered 2 other columns to advance and encircle the forces, trying to encircle the first column. The trap became a counter-trap in 72 hours. Knobelsdorff lost 2 divisions, forces Germany could not replace. He tried to use Patton's aggression against him. Patton turned it back on the man who said it. Subscribe before the next chapter. What Patton did at Bastogne still doesn't make sense to military historians today. Chapter 4. The Impossible Relief. Hasso von Manteuffel commanded the 5th Panzer Army during the Battle of the Bulge. His forces surrounded Bastogne in December 1944. Every calculation said no relief force could reach the garrison in time. The weather was too bad, the roads were too packed with snow. American reserves were fully committed elsewhere. Patton turned his entire army 90 degrees north. An operation military planners said required a minimum of 2 weeks and reached Bastogne in 4 days. Manteuffel reported to German High Command afterward that what Patton had done was not militarily possible, that it violated every known principle of large formation maneuver. He wasn't making excuses. He was genuinely trying to warn them. They didn't know what to do with that information. Manteuffel spent years after the war writing about Bastogne. He consistently called it the most impressive military movement he witnessed in 6 years of combat on 2 fronts. It was the moment Germany lost the Battle of the Bulge. The last general never had that moment of recognition. He underestimated Patton, paid for it. and went to his grave convinced it was someone else's fault. Chapter 5. The Rhine. Albert Kesselring was given one task in the final months of the war: hold the Rhine, Germany's last natural barrier, the one position where terrain itself would compensate for a collapsing military. He believed it would hold until April at the earliest. On the night of March 22, 1945, Patton crossed the Rhine at Oppenheim. No major artillery bombardment, no advance notice to Eisenhower, no waiting for authorization. When Eisenhower's headquarters called the next morning to discuss crossing plans, Patton told them he was already across and moving east. Kesselring sat in silence for several minutes when he received the news. By the time his counterattack orders reached the relevant commanders, Patton was 20 miles east of the river. The war in Europe ended 47 days later. 5 generals, 5 campaigns, 5 ways of underestimating the same man. Rundstedt thought he was reckless. Balck thought he was predictable. Knobelsdorff thought his aggression could be turned against him. Manteuffel thought the weather would stop him. Kesselring thought the Rhine would. None of them were right. Patton thought faster, moved faster. And by the time any of them figured out what he was doing, he was already somewhere else. That's not a tactic, that's a different kind of mind.